Hey, welcome to the Randy Karraker Show. I wasn't looking at the right spot. Welcome to the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. It's great to have you with us, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker. Getting ready for quite a show here today. Going to talk a little bit about Shilt's departure. I'm not going to call it a demise.
Okay.
It's more of a departure. Although I think it's safe to say that he will probably not manage a big league team again.
Yeah, and he did say in the Kevin AC article, which we will be pulling a lot of quotes from here as we talk about the new reporting around Mike Shildt. There also was an article from or a little blurb from John Heyman in the New York Post where he claims that a physical altercation almost happened between Shildt and one of his coaches.
I wonder which coach.
I've heard the name, and I will just say not somebody that I would want to fight with.
Oh, who is that?
Former Cardinal is all I'll say. And you can look through the Cardinals coaching staff and figure it out from there.
The Cardinals?
This is not, or
Padres?
the Padres. The Padres coach is a former Cardinal.
Okay.
I just heard this in the rumbling. This has not been reported anywhere. But if it's true that this is the coach that, as John Heyman reports in the New York Post, almost got in a fight with Mike Shildt, I would have liked to see that scrap. I think that would have been a fun scrap.
Was it Brian Esposito?
It was not Brian Esposito. No,
former Cardinal.
No, it was not.
Legend. Was it our old friend Nick Punto, the shredder?
It very well might have been the shredder who got a little scrappy.
Okay, I like that.
But almost got a little scrappy because they didn't come to. They didn't. It wasn't. There wasn't a physical altercation. It was that one of the blow-ups that we'll be talking about is referred to a lot in the Kevin AC story. Apparently, according to John Heyman, almost led to blows with one of his coaches.
I think this is great. I think this is great theater. I think the baseball needs this sort of intensity. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the Blues as they take on. Fair to call the Blackhawks hapless?
I mean, they at least have one of the top young players in the league.
Is he really?
I mean, yeah, he hasn't, gone
He's a high draft choice.
Nuclear the way that people thought he was going to, but I still think that Connor Bedard is going to be a top player in the NHL. The question is, can they fill out the rest of the roster? The answer to that has been no.
Yeah. And they have one win so far this season.
I mean, he's just on. I mean, 154 games played, 131 points. I mean, so obviously the minus 80 across those 2 years is pretty bad. But he is a guy who it wouldn't surprise me by the time he's 21 as a point per game player or knocking on the door. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
They don't know how to build a team.
I have no idea.
In Chicago, and they've been really bad now for a really long time. For as great as things were for an extended period of time in Chicago. That organization and the other Blues rival, the Detroit Red Wings, those two franchises have just gone down the tubes, both of them. And I thought when Detroit, I was worried about when the Red Wings hired Steve Yzerman as their general manager. I thought, okay, they're going to be back. And they've never come back, and the Blackhawks have never come back. So I'm fine with that, too. I don't know if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I thought there'd be a little bit more pep in your step as you broke this down.
Well, here I think we can, for as much as we know about the Blues, doing competitive rebuilds. And the Blues went through a stretch where they didn't make the playoffs. But every year, except for the year they had the big sell-off, they were kind of in the playoff hunt until the very end. Chicago lost in the first round of the playoffs in 2017. They have not won a playoff series since 2015 when they won the Stanley Cup. Lost in the first round in 2016, lost in the first round, by the way, to the Blues, lost in the first round in 2017, lost in the first round in 2020. Not only that, but if you look at the way that they have just experienced their demise, 2018, last in the division, 2019, 6th out of 7, 2020, 7th out of 7, 6 out of 8 in 21. In 2022, 7th out of 8, 8th out of 8, 8th out of 8, 8th out of 8, each of the last 3 years, and now they're 7th out of 8. So, and beyond being missing the playoffs, they're annually the worst team in the division and one of the worst teams in the league.
And this is why, like specifically with the Red Wings, this is why, like, rebuilding teams, it can happen fast, but why it's so damn impressive what the Blues have been able to do. Because I mean, they have an 80-point player in Lucas Raymond, one of their top draft picks when they sucked. They have Moritz Seider, a 50-point defenseman, 23 years old, one of their top picks when they sucked. Marco Kasper, a 20-year-old who gave them 40 points last year. So they have all these young players, but again, the consistency of actually building a lineup from 1 through 6 defensemen, or actually probably more like 1 through 7 defensemen and 1 through 14 on the forwards, and getting, quality goaltenders in and year out, and knowing when to spend the money on the goaltender,
Right.
and knowing whether or not Ville Husso is the right guy to go with or not. That's the difference between what the Blues have been able to do, and the consistency, and the fact they were able to turn around the rebuild so fast, and what teams like the Blackhawks and Red Wings have been stuck in for a while now.
And by the way, just an FYI for the Red Wings, they haven't made the playoffs since 2015, 2016. That's the last time they won the playoffs. So they have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 consecutive full years without making the playoffs. The Red Wings have not won a playoff series since 2013.
Jesus. Oh my gosh.
That's the last time they won a playoff series.
That's 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was still in college when that happened.
Isn't that amazing?
That's quite amazing.
Yeah. I don't think I had gray hair.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's pretty pathetic from the Red
we
Wings.
are old school. Okay. Let's get to the stories today about Mike Shildt and his retirement as the Padres manager. And obviously when things came out, it was all sunshine lollipops. It was, well, not really sunshine lollipops, but he was saying, hey, look, it's taken a physical and emotional toll on me and a mental toll, and I've had death threats. Since then, John Heyman reporting today that Mike Shildt's disagreements with staff almost led to a fight with a coach. And the quotes from Kevin Acey's story that we will see are notable. One of the reasons I'm going to leave is the inability to please everybody. Now, he apparently has a really strident idea as to how a baseball team should be run. And he thinks that there should be uniformity in the way that team should be run. So he said, I partnered with a lot of people, more people than not. But those that didn't want to partner with me, that didn't want to do things the way I wanted them done, that is his inability to please everybody. And I guess there were enough people, Matthew, that weren't pleased that they threatened to leave. And coaches said, hey, I'm going to listen. And if I can get another gig to get away from this guy, I am going to go. So whether that presented physical or emotional stress, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of things through here. And another one, this one from AC in his reporting. Nearly 20 sources characterize Shildt as unyieldingly demanding of his coaching staff and possessing a quick temper that is easily triggered by questioning or feedback.
Yeah, you can't do that. Everything in every sports team's lexicon these days, when a new manager is hired, when a new general manager is hired, when a new POBO or a POHO is hired, every single time a person is hired, the term collaboration and collaborative comes up. And apparently, and I never worked with Mike Shildt in a professional manner. When I worked with him as a media member, got along with him great, loved him, was shocked when he wasn't going to come back to the Cardinals. So the Cardinals did a really good job of keeping their philosophical differences under wraps. But Mike apparently is not a guy that wants to be collaborative with the people on his staff. Mike Martz always talked about, and remember all the big changes he made after the Rams had that horrible 2000 season with the bad defense. And he turned over a lot of the staff, and he said, I need to have chemistry on my staff because we're around each other all the time. We're around each other more than we're around our families. That's the way it is with a baseball team too, and a baseball coaching staff. Those people have to be on the same page. You can't have a baseball coaching staff where the demands are such that people want to leave. And one of the great things about Ollie Marmol, his staff really likes him. He likes working with them. That clearly was the case with Tony La Russa. When you look at Dave McKay over the years, Jose Oquendo over the years, Mark McGuire for the last couple of years that he was here, the relationship with Dave Duncan, Tony clearly was on the same page as his staff. Dick Vermeil, the same way. What you have to do, and this is apparently something that Mike Shildt did not do, and this is an old Dick Vermeil thing that I would do if I were ever in charge of anything. If I were a president of a bank or a president of hockey operations or baseball operations or whatever, you need to hire good people that you trust and let them do their jobs. You can't hire a bunch of people and say, okay, that's not the way I want the job done. You have to do it this way. You have to hire them, trust, and that's the biggest part of the process. Trust them to do the job well, and then get out of their way and let them do their jobs. One of the stupidest things that a sports team can do is not understand what a person in charge is all about. Now, I don't know what the situation with the Padres is, but think about Urban Meyer when he went to the Jaguars. How could the Jaguars have not done their due diligence to find out what kind of a guy he was and what sort of power he needed to have, and then the way that he would wield that power? Anytime you have a coach in any sport that's one and done or less than one and done, you haven't done your job in hiring the right person. You have the person that does the hiring of a one and done coach, that person should be out of there too.
More quotes here from Mike Shildt in the Kevin Acee story. Incredible reporting by him. I have to accept the inability of making everyone happy, but it's one of the factors in my decision. That's right there from Mike Shildt saying that his inability to deal with everyone is part of this decision.
Being a perfectionist, and I know people like this, is a blessing and a curse, because you do desire to make things perfect. But the problem that being, especially when you're a person in charge that's a perfectionist, is you expect everybody else to be perfect, and not everybody is. In fact, very few people are perfect. So you need to find that perfect employee for you. And if you don't, and then you expect perfection, then you're not going to make that person happy, and that person's not going to make you happy. And that obviously happened with Mike with that quote. But that's pretty good self-awareness, that he has to accept the inability of making everyone happy, but it's one of the factors in my decision. Clearly, he knows now that he can't do that, and that's why he'll probably never manage in the majors again.
And another line here from the article, this is from Kevin Acee writing, Shildt sticking around for the duration of his contract seemed far more in question than would be assumed. Essentially saying all of this was coming to a head, and we might have seen something similar to a Cardinals situation.
Yeah, and you hear that and read that there was friction between he and AJ Preller, their general manager. And one thing that we know is that Mike was pretty demanding of Mo in terms of asking for certain players, and Mo didn't really want to, not that he didn't want to get them, but like I think it was June of 21 in Mike's last year here, and we've told this story before, but he goes to Mo and says, dude, I need a left-handed reliever. I don't have anybody down there in the bullpen to get anybody out. And apparently and I don't know the tone in which the request was made, but the response was, I get the blanking players, you manage the blanking players. And that kind of started the philosophical differences, is that Mike has certain things that he wants from people, sometimes a left-handed reliever, and it doesn't always work.
Getting some comments here. Jerry Franks, with all this coming out, Mo is vindicated in his firing of Mike Shildt.
And it is, yeah.
By the way, it's kind of crazy. Yesterday was the anniversary. October 14th, 2021 is when they announced that. Yesterday was the anniversary. Absolutely insane to me that it happened right around the exact same time.
And by the way, I think there were definitely some personal issues, because he fired the guy over the phone and started the conversation by saying, this call isn't going to go the way you think it's going to go. So I think that the disdain for Mike Shildt on the part of John Mozeliak was pretty apparent just with the way he fired him.
And then AC went into what happened in St. Louis. He talked about how he has multiple sources now from people who played in people who were working in St. Louis, who said that they were willing to take other jobs away from the St. Louis Cardinals if Mike Shildt remained to be the manager. And to that point, AC says here, and the 2 years appear to show that he did not alter the way he dealt with the people who worked under him. And that's the big overarching thing you get from these comments from what happened now in San Diego. And if you had your ear to the ground, things you heard rumblings about from here in St. Louis.
And here's the thing. It wasn't people above him. It's one thing if you complain about what you're getting from the people above you, but it was the way he treated people a rung below, 2-3 rungs below him. And apparently those sorts of people who have, at least in our organization, the Cardinal organization, been there for a long time and worked for a lot of people. I mean, we're talking about people that worked for Whitey Herzog and Joe Torre and Tony La Russa and Mike Matheny before they got to Mike Shildt, and people that adored those guys who just could not abide the way that they were treated by Mike Shildt. And I've heard about people. I've never heard specifically from people, but I've heard about people within the Cardinal organization that have been there for a long time, that have worked for multiple Hall of Fame managers, and they were ready to get on out of there. And some people, by the way, did get on out of there during Mike Shilt's tenure, and it just didn't work. Now, that being said, I don't want you to think that everybody didn't like Mike Shildt. Mike Shilt's best friend, Mark DeJean, was the Cardinals minor league coordinator, a great baseball man, a George Kissel disciple. When Mike Shildt got fired, Mark DeJean retired immediately because he hated the way that the Cardinals treated Mike Shildt. There were other big-time Mike Shildt devotees within the organization that didn't understand the firing. But one thing about being the Pobo is that you see everything that goes on. If you don't see it, you at least hear about it from somebody. And it would have been easy until these last 48 hours to say, you know what, the Cardinals were too thin-skinned. The Cardinals, they did the wrong thing in firing Mike Shildt. Here's a guy that's had 5 full seasons of managing at the major league level, and each of those seasons resulted in a trip to the playoffs. It would have been, it could have been, it was very easy for us to say, you know what, that was a Cardinal thing. That wasn't a Mike Shildt thing. Now, all of a sudden, it's flipped, and it's a Mike Shildt thing rather than a Cardinal thing, because it's a Cardinal thing and a Padre thing, and the only common denominator is him.
And to that point, we're going to get to Anthony C's comment here in just a second, but there was another quote in there that the things Shildt was hearing were, quote unquote, eerily similar in the 2 places I've managed. And that was the reaction to his demand for perfection, how he expressed that demand, how he approached that demand, and how people then responded to that demand. He was hearing eerily similar things in the 2 places he's managed. That's it right there.
And I'd like to know what it was, because the players liked Shildt, especially the star players liked Shildt a lot here. And so I don't know if the demands were extraordinary. He allowed the players to speak their mind. Remember ball talk before every game? He'd get the team together and they would talk ball. Definitely a rooster, definitely a guy with a temper. We saw that on the field. That being said, it doesn't seem like he treated the players that way. It was his staff. It was whether it's training and equipment people and coaches, the people that you don't see front and center every day, apparently were the people that were mistreated, which is no way to go about being a leader.
Yeah, that really bothers me, because it's easy to see why he's deferential to the players. As a guy who talks about how he never played, and he talks about how he's never going to expect these players to that he knows he can't do it, so he's not going to ask too much of these guys. And I think they respect that. But clearly, being deferential in that direction is easy for him, and I respect that. I do not respect all the reports coming out that saying he pretty much is always kicking it down the ladder, that the support staff catches heat, and that in the article, Kevin AC had said there were multiple stories that he heard of anecdotes of him screaming at a support staff member and then immediately turning around, walking into the locker room with a huge smile on his face to greet all his players.
Yeah.
That's problematic. And there was an article in there. The Padres enlisted people internally to work with Shildt regarding his penchant to snap at colleagues and even superiors.
So, and some people just have a temper, and clearly that's the case with him, but that is not the way that you can do it in sports in 2025. There is no such thing left in sports as my way or the highway. There are too many people with too much juice in an organization or the ability to file an HR complaint that have changed things dramatically. It used to be that if you were a head coach or a manager, you could treat people like dirt, and the people that you treated like dirt would be the ones that are gone. Well, that's not the way it works anymore, because there are so many valuable people that are hard to replace within an organization. And I think a bigger thing, and I don't know if this has ever come up with Mike, but you bring up a situation there where he snapped at an employee. In any business realm right now, wherever you are, whether you're working for a podcast company, whether you're working for a TV station, an insurance company, a movie studio, if you don't treat people with respect and the way they should be treated as human beings, in the vast majority of business environments, somebody is going to go to HR and complain about it, and you're going to be either brought in and You're going to be warned or you're going to be let go. In 2025, that's just the way it is. Maybe in 1985, 1975, it wasn't that way, but it is now. And it clearly is a case of Mike Shildt failing to be able to come to grips with the way that he needs to treat people. That is the bottom line here, is the way you treat people. And again, I'll say this about Mike Shildt. My personal interactions with him were all positive, but now there's too much smoke out there for there not to be a Mike Shildt fire, and the reason that he's gone from the Padres.
There was a couple quotes in there at the end. The people would apparently gather around in the organization, would gather around to watch his post-game press conferences after games because, and I have the quote up right now, Shildt would treat many queries as if they were personal attacks.
Yeah,
saying that he was openly getting very hostile with the media. Did that development surprise you?
It did, and I heard the same thing after the Cardinals were out in San Diego, that the media hated him, and he got along with everybody here. I think he had a good relationship with Derek. I know he had a good relationship with Katie Wu, Bernie, me, Danny Mack, everybody that was around him, whether just John Rooney and Rick Horton, everybody that was around him on our level, on a media to manager level, got along with him. And I think part of that was because a lot of those people, if not most of them, had such a bad taste in their mouths because of the way things ended with Mike Matheny.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not have a good relationship with the media at the end. Again, I wasn't around every day, so I think it was easier for me. And I had that long relationship with Mike going all the way back to before he was ever a Cardinal. So, and I still have a great relationship, and I have a great deal of respect for Mike Matheny. But for the people that cover it on a daily basis, it's a different situation. And I think that Mike Shildt, for those people that are around it on a daily basis that had kind of been worn down as media members by Mike Matheny, I think they really appreciated Mike Shildt. And so I think there was, if he would have followed, if Shildt and Shilt's personality would have followed Whitey Herzog or Joe Torre, maybe it would have been different.
We got a text here from Anthony C. talking about Shilt's personality. Shildt reminds me of the Mike Martz head coach years, although Jim Haslett liked him. Haslett wanted to bring him back as OC before he was let go.
Well, here's the thing with Mike. And I don't know if he would agree with this now, but he had never been a head coach before he got the head coaching job. And he just soaked up all that power, and he couldn't get enough of it. And he did not lead the underlings, the staff, in a great manner. Now, again, Mike Martz's players absolutely adored him, except for Kurt Warner, of course. But Isaac, Marshall, Torrey, Orlando, Mark Bulger, even on the defensive side of the ball, a guy like Aeneas, they adored Mike Martz. But he was abusive of the power that he inherited. Now, the difference here is that I can almost understand to an extent a guy with his first head coaching job or his first managing job where he has power and he doesn't know how to treat that power. But once Shildt got a second chance, you've got to reflect while you're out and find a way to bring people together and become a better leader. You can be the manager, but that doesn't mean you're a leader. And you've got to find a way to become a better leader. And I think, by the way, one of the reasons that Mike Martz never got another head coaching job is because of the personality conflicts that he had with people within the organization, people above him, Jay Zygmunt, Charlie Army, and people below him, like telling a strength coach, brings a strength coach up to the office and promotes him, says, hey, you're now the head strength coach. Now go tell the guy that was your boss.
No.
That he
Mike,
is under you.
Mike, you can't do that.
Yeah,
no, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Because he thought it was just like a depth chart.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you're my starting middle linebacker. Yeah. Go tell the other one he's second string
not starting
now.
Anymore. Yeah.
He thought it was a depth chart.
Yeah.
It's not a depth chart, man. Yeah. People aren't used to that in regular jobs.
Yeah. But Anthony, that's a great call. And Haslett, if he would have gotten the job, absolutely was going to bring back Martz as the offensive coordinator and Dom Capers as the defensive coordinator. Yeah, that's what it was going to be. Pretty cool, huh?
And instead, they didn't hire Haslett. And they went out and got Linehan.
Oh no, that was when Linehan got fired. They got Spags.
They went out and got Spags, even
Yeah.
worse. God bless America. I hate thinking of
And
potentially positive.
here's an interesting one from Nancy Renee.
Yes, I like this.
As a self-prescribed perfectionist, as a leader, I learned quickly that there are many ways to accomplish a goal and to embrace others' ways and ideas. And I think that is number one. That's one of those great Dick Vermeil traits, but I think it's the trait of any great leader. Joe Torre was that way. Joel Quenneville was that way. Tony was that, and even Tony could be brusque, but Tony was always accepting of different opinions and ideas. And he just let Dave Duncan do his thing. I mean, Dave Duncan, Tony knew what was going on, but Dave Duncan did pretty much with the pitching staff whatever he wanted. And that goes back to hiring good people and then accepting their ideas. And I think there's a great saying too, and this goes beyond what Shildt was doing or what he should have done. But when you're accepting of new ideas, there's a saying that if it ain't broke, break it, so that you foster new ideas. And I think that's probably one of the things that a guy like Shildt needed to do.
Yeah, and kind of it's crazy that all this did come to light. We had a comment here from Keith Adams. It's crazy that all these years passed and nobody said anything. So for 4 years, this was kept under wraps. Interesting. Listen, if you were listening to the right people, they were these rumblings were coming out about Shildt this entire season. I think there were a lot of people who thought this had continued from its time here in St. Louis. And listen, we all knew philosophical differences didn't just mean
no.
I like stealing bases more and you like stealing bases less. I want to bunt more. That's not what the philosophical differences was. It was clearly something deeper than that.
The way that people were being treated. Now, one of the things, and we're going to talk to Bernie on the show on Friday, and I want to get Bernie's take on this, because one of the things with Shildt is a LaRussa guy, and they talk all the time, or talked all the time. And one of the things that I think Tony would say, because Tony was always the boss and never really had to deal with having a boss wherever he was, whether it was he had the owner's ear in Chicago, first of all, with Reinsdorf, had the owner's ear in Oakland with Walter Haas, had the owner's ear here, and then when he went back to Chicago, he never really had a boss. And that's one of the reasons that I think that Mo wanted to hire Mike Matheny, because Matheny was malleable. Well, from what I understand, when Tony talks to first-time major league managers that he knows, he'll say, hey, don't let the front office give you any crap, okay? You are the manager of the team. They aren't. You are. And I have to believe that whether it is Mike Shildt or Mike Matheny, I think probably that attitude kind of seeped him into the Cardinals, because Tony was in charge for such a long time and he thought it could stay the same way, but it wasn't going to stay the same way. And I think what happened with both Matheny and Shildt is they were malleable to a point at the beginning, but then they started to feel it a little bit. I mean, Mike Matheny goes to the NLCS in 12, goes to the World Series in 13, goes to the NLCS in 14, wins 100 games in 15. You start to feel it as a little bit, as a manager a little bit, and start to voice your own opinions. Same thing with Shildt, right? Gets hired when Matheny gets fired, almost makes the playoffs, and then 3 straight years of making the playoffs. And I think he probably started to get a little bit of an ego and say, you know what, I'm managing this team successfully. I need to do things my way. And I don't care that you're my boss. I am going to do things my way. I have to believe that part of what Tony is telling these guys is ultimately coming back to bite them, because the demands that everybody would acquiesce to that Tony had, hey, I want Matt Holliday. So they go out and get Matt Holliday. I want Dennis Eckersley. So they go out and get Dennis Eckersley. I want Mark McGwire. So they go get Mark McGwire. He got whatever he wanted. Well, now a manager says to the GM or the POBO, I want this guy. And what's he say? Just like we said earlier, hey, I'll pick out the players and get the players. I'll buy the groceries. You cook the dinner. That's exactly, I think, what's happening here.
And one of the final quotes in that article by Kevin Acee was Mike Shildt wanted to eat his cake and have it too, where he wanted input from the front office, but then there were things where he also didn't want them to interfere at all. And the inability to learn how to work with the front office and knowing when you can have the push and the pull. And heck, we've seen a young manager right here in St. Louis learn how you can sometimes do what Shildt did and use your post-game press conference to send a message, because it's a little bit safer than trying to do it in the hallways when there's not media and cameras and those kind of things, and it's not a public conversation. So you got to learn how to play the game a little bit, and it's clear that he didn't learn how to play the game over the last 3 years.
And Greg Amsinger told us, and I think you were with us when we were over at 101, told us one time that he was down in spring training. He gets there really early to do his spring training previews. And they were at the Padres for like 3 days in a row. And every morning, Preller and Shildt were taking a long walk along the outfield warning track at their stadium in Peoria, Arizona. And it was Shildt trying everything he could to make sure that he was on the same page as AJ Preller. And then I think in a conversation said, I don't want to have what happened in St. Louis happen here. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And Preller, by the way, at least publicly, the quotes, I don't know that he would have fired him. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. But it seems like it was disagreements with other people rather than AJ Preller that really caused the problems here.
Skywalker 1982, they brought him some pretty good groceries in San Diego.
Ooh, they did.
And he also said, I'll admit it was big of Mo to not release more details in the press to take a little heat off of himself for firing him.
Well, and Mo always said that, hey, if Mike wants to talk about it, he's welcome to.
Yes, he did.
And Mike Shildt always had that ability. If he wanted to say something about the philosophical differences, he was allowed to. He didn't have any contract or any separation agreement that said that he couldn't. Mo said that he could. And yeah, I give Mo credit for that too.
Graham, this situation has only made Mo and that front office look better in hindsight. One other point to your point right out the gate, Mike Shildt says he will not be a manager in Major League Baseball ever again, but he does want to work in player development. So should the Cardinals bring in a George Kissel disciple?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, hire him. Let him do the job that Mark DeJean had. He is accepting of the analytics movement. Cardinals are hardcore, by the way, into analytics now. They're going to be, they're going to, as they say, they're going to work the margins. But I think that the way that Mike Shildt teaches baseball, we've seen the product of it for a long time with the Jays and the Descalzos and the Cosmos of the world that weren't the most talented guys in the world, but they didn't make mistakes and they were winning ball players and they made winning plays. One thing we know Mike Shildt knows how to do. He knows how to teach a player to make winning baseball plays. And I think the Cardinals need that.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
And I think he and Ollie are still reasonably tight.
Yeah. They were on Ollie. Of course, we talked about it before. When people pointed out the Cardinals having defensive struggles, you would always point out when the Cardinals had the best defense in baseball and Mike Shildt was the manager, Ollie Marmol was a very large part of the coaching staff to making them one of the best defenses in baseball. And so it was always like, give Ollie Marmol time. He'll figure out the defense. By the way, the Cardinals, 2 Gold Glove finalists today. And Wynn and Victor Scott II. Pretty good there. TP Strato, as somebody who was critical of Mo firing Shildt, I must admit that it appeared Mo was completely justified.
Yeah, it does. And that doesn't absolve Mo of any other sins in the Cardinals' demise in terms of being a playoff or 100-win team or whatever. But yeah, in this particular personnel situation, you have to give Mo credit for keeping things as quiet as he did.
I will say one thing. I pointed this out 2 weeks ago. This was right after the Braves and the Snitker announcement. We were on Monday. I was on with Joe Roderick, and I made a comment about how it's a really good thing the Cardinals didn't decide to move on from Ollie Marmol and try to get a new manager this winter, because they would be the 6th or 7th ninth best job.
Oh yeah,
like I'm saying, best, yeah. I'm saying they'd be like the 6th or 7th best job out of the market. Orioles, Braves, Padres, Twins are all Rangers are all easily better jobs than the Cardinals right now. It would have been rough hoe had they gone to the open market and said, we're getting a new manager.
And now the Padres too.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of win now, I agree with you 100%. So who do you think would be at the bottom of that list? Colorado?
I think it's Colorado. I think that's the worst job because the thing is like all the other teams, it's like you answer the question, can we get talent? And if any team says yes, the Colorado Rockies can give you all the money in the world, but the one half of that question is yes, but it won't be pitchers. Like you're never going to sign a free agent pitcher. Like I saw somebody joking on Twitter. It's like I can't wait till there's a pitcher out there who's so confident and so masochistic that he's like, I'm going to defeat Coors Field and I will take my big free agent deal with the Colorado Rockies. But I mean, especially as pitching continues to go the way it is, it's only going to get harder to pitch in Coors, because if everyone's velocity based, you're just all people have to do is make contact.
Yeah,
it's going to fly off the ball.
Okay, so let's do the power rankings here. We can leave the Cardinals out of this. Padres right now. Padres have almost no starting pitching coming back.
Yeah, and then they're going to be in payroll hell in 2 or 3 years. The moment Manny Machado falls off as a hitter, they are screwed.
And they still have Tatis.
They still have Tatis, but and plenty of money.
But they've got a bunch of guys signed through their age 40 seasons, and next year they got Yu Darvish coming back at 39. I think Michael King is a free agent. Musgrove may or may not be back. He's under a long-term contract. Cease is going to leave as a free agent. Yeah, it's not great. Giants have Logan Webb. They go out and get Devers. They've got Adames. They've got Matt Chapman. They've got Ramos.
That one would probably be like, how much do you want to work with Buster Posey? Right.
I wonder if guys, I would think people would want.
That's what I'm saying. And so I would move the Giants up a little bit higher.
Yeah. Twins.
Yeah, that's higher up than the Cardinals in my opinion.
Yeah, but it just so right now I would go of these three: Giants 1, Padres 2, Twins 3.
I'm with you on that one. I get that.
Okay, Angels.
Yeah, it's pretty low down.
I put the Angels right now. They're at the bottom. Yep. I would put the Twins above the Angels actually.
Yeah, as
yep
for good jobs. I think the Twins is a very good job.
Which is
the Twins.
Yeah, but I just have the Angels below them.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I think Atlanta's the number one job.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Okay,
we know the farm system works. We know the major league roster has talent. It's it seems the most turnkey of the jobs open.
Yes,
unless New York. I guess
so
even more than New York.
Braves, Giants, Padres, Twins, Angels, and then obviously the Rangers job has already been filled.
Yeah. So it would have been a rough, unless they could have gotten Skip. It would have been rough for the Cardinals in the open market.
So, and Skip's son is going to TCU, and
it works.
So I think that everything kind of lent itself towards Skip Schumacher becoming the manager of the Rangers. Hey, Missouri, get ready. The wait's almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, coming soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri customers get $300 in bonus bets when DraftKings launches on December 1st. All you need to do is download the app today and place a $5 bet when we go live, and DraftKings Sportsbook will bring you everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with a sportsbook app trusted by millions, safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code STL Sports, that one right there on your screen, to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Blues hockey tonight as they take on the Blackhawks over at Enterprise Center. Game 2 of the home season for our Redbirds, for our Blues, after a 5-0 whitewash by Minnesota in the opener, the season opener.
That's the past. That's the past. That's a different Blues.
It is different Blues.
New season, like Jeff Fisher would say.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I think it is, and I think it's a good thing, is we kind of mentioned this yesterday. I think that the first game of the season was kind of like a preseason game.
There you go. I'm with that.
The fact that Monty didn't use his regular lineup but one time in the preseason, I think it's kind of like the NFL now, where you use the lineup that you're going to use for the regular season as few times as possible, allows you to evaluate your kids, allows you to see some line combinations that maybe ordinarily you wouldn't get the opportunity to utilize. So I think that's where the Blues were early in the season. you go on the road early, and Cam Jansen told us last week, hey, bonding is a big thing. Now you come home and you get to take on a pretty bad team. And I think the schedule works out for the Blues to get off to a good start.
I think it does. Yeah, we broke down the schedule yesterday. A lot of winnable games. 2 games against the Detroit Red Wings. This Blackhawks games. Just some very winnable games. They play the Penguins, who should be pretty not good this year. So yeah, a lot of winnable games. And to your point, JR in The Athletic talking about how they got in at like 2 a.m. from Canada on Monday night. I guess it would have been Tuesday morning. But then they had a 12 p.m. skate on Tuesday yesterday. And he says everyone was having fun. The vibes were incredible. And so to hear that from this Blues team is I love hearing that right out of the gate. The one thing I did see from that article by JR that is interesting to me is Monty. There's too many just the same nicknames with this damn sport. Monty said that he does think that Holloway and Kyrou are forcing things a little bit right now, kind of white knuckling it because it hasn't really broken through for them yet. They had Neighbors break through, they had Snuggie break through. So I wonder if maybe if we see anything tonight, in addition to the obviously shakeup of Neighbors at the top line, Snuggie to the third line, do we maybe see another line shakeup to get Holloway or Kyrou going? I
think that's a possibility because Kyrou and Thomas have had success in the past, and Bucci isn't going, so maybe you just flip Bucci and Kyrou early on. It's top, and this is according to JR, and we'll get to the most interesting part of this in a moment. But Thomas between Bucci and Nabes, or Jakey, if you want to call him that. Schenner between Holly or Hollywood and Rousey. That's Jordan Kyrou.
It's Rousey.
Suits between Snuggie and what is Joseph's nickname? Do you know?
I got nothing on this one.
Okay. And then Buggs is between Walks and Tex. So that would be Bugstad between Walker and Texier. Now, defensively, Fowler and Parayko, no surprise. They have flipped Tucker and Broberg. So Tucker is on the number 2 pairing on defense with Marshall Falk.
Justin
Falk, who should be wearing 28. Always should have been. And then Brobe's down to the 3rd pairing with Logan Mailloux. So I think that's interesting. And HOFer is between the pipes tonight.
Yeah, I'm not. I love that they went back to Hofer tonight. I loved that move. I wondered if they were going to do that. You know, I don't think we're going to see a straight like 40 game split between Bennington and Hofer, but as long as Hofer looks good, there's no reason, in my opinion, not to go game in, game off with these guys, as long as he's looking good.
And I would think you're going to have a 50-30 split anyway.
Yeah, that's probably games-wise. That's probably what it comes down to.
And the way the schedule plays out early in the season, they've got a lot of 3s and 4s. And I would think that we'll probably see Hofer a pretty substantial amount. By the way, is tonight's game not on FanDuel? I think tonight's a TNT.
That's why it's so damn late. Yes. Yeah. So I put it up, by the way. We will be having, of course, as we always do with St. Louis events, there will be a post-game Blues Central post-game right here. But it is going to be a very late night. I put it up earlier, 8:30 p.m. puck drop. So we will be here very late. I will be watching the replay of that post-game show tomorrow morning to catch up with what everyone says on STL Sports Central, because I don't have to be on it, which means I probably will not make it through till the 11:30 ending of this game. Ridiculous time.
So, it is. But then after this one on Saturday night, you've got the Stars in town. Then you're off for 2 more days until you get the Kings, and then 1 day off, and you get the Buffalo Sabres. So that'll be interesting to see. Or no, that's the Mammoth. Sorry about that. It's Utah. So it just looks like a new Sabres.
It does kind of look like an updated Sabres logo. You're right.
But the thing is with Hofer, you've got to get him in there.
Yes.
When you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got 4 games in 9 days. So I wouldn't be surprised if you played 2 of these, and Binner got 2 also. And then after that, then you the following week you've got 3 and 4. The 27th. You're at Pittsburgh. You come home. You get Detroit the next night, a night off, and then home against Van Blankencouvre. So there. And by the way, next week you've got 3 and 5. You've got Kings day off, Mammoth day off, and then Red Wings day off, and then Pittsburgh. So you've got quite a schedule coming up once you get to next Tuesday. So you're going to get both of those goalers some opportunities. And I do like the way early in the season, if Monty mixes and matches, like seeing Broberg with Mailloux, I like that. Seeing 2 big guys with sticks and Mayu, the more experience you can get Mayu, whether it's with Broberg or maybe at some point with Fowler, the more you can get him a coach on the ice. How often did we say that about Colton Parayko, getting him a partner?
Yeah.
And if you can get Mayu a partner that will help maybe cover some of those deficiencies, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and part of it was stabilizing Mayu with Broberg. Although when you think about player styles, it really doesn't make sense that putting Broberg with Mayu stabilizes Mayu, because Mayu's big thing right now is that he's getting a little bit too far away from the pinch, and so you want to have a defensive guy who stays home in that situation. Broberg, we know what he is. We knows the offensive ceiling that he has. Seems kind of surprising me that it's working, but it is, so I'm not going to poke any holes in it. And a big part of that isn't just they need to stabilize Mayu, it's that Tyler Tucker is playing great hockey right now to open the season. He'll
make Falk better.
Yeah, I think so.
It's weird to say that essentially a second-year guy, actually his first full year in the NHL, if he plays for the full 6 months, but he is a guy that is making the longtime veteran better.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of games in action, I can't deal with what's going on right now in the National League Championship Series.
Okay, here we go.
It's beyond. It's so ridiculous, Randy.
Well, here's the thing. Let's take our team, the Cardinals, okay? And maybe this isn't fair because the Cardinals have issues. But let's take the Cardinals right now and include Sonny Gray, okay, on their rotation. So the Dodgers start this playoff series with Blake Snell. If Blake Snell were a Cardinal, would he be their number one starter?
Yes.
Their number two starter is Yamamoto. If he were a Cardinal, would he be the number one starter?
Yes.
They go to Glasnow tomorrow night for game 3. Would he be the Cardinals' number one starter?
Yes.
Then it's Shohei Ohtani in game 4. Would he be the Cardinals' number one starter?
He'd also be their best hitter.
And this is not something that's indigenous just to the Cardinals. For 25 teams, 26, 27 teams, the number 4 starter in the playoffs for the Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, would be their number 1 starting pitcher. The way it's set up is, and I hate to say it's not fair because the Dodgers aren't breaking any rules, but in terms of...
They're certainly bending some. Well, they're stretching some.
And we'll get to that in a second. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of just building their team and their roster, they are not doing anything wrong. They're spending money and they want to win and they want to kill a fly with a sledgehammer, and that's exactly what they're doing. Now, are they gaming the system? Well, what's it tell you? That basically you have a group of pitchers that pitched for 2 months from April, May, June, July, August, September. Okay, 6 months of the season. You have Blake Snell pitch for 2 months. You had Ohtani pitch in August, 2 months. You had Glasnow pitch for 2 months. Yamamoto pitched the whole season. But essentially what they can do, because they spend so much money and they know they're going to make the playoffs because of their incredible depth, is that they can have pitchers pitch for 2 of the 6 months of the season and then say, you know what, we're going to pitch you in the last 2 weeks of September and get you ready for the playoffs. And that's exactly what they have done with all of these starting pitchers. Beyond that, Roki Sasaki is their closer right now. He pitched in the first month of the season. They set him down. They turned him into a better pitcher. He's got great stuff, but they had to teach him how to pitch. So what do? They put him on the IL and they teach him how to pitch. That part of it is bending the rules a little bit. To their credit, they haven't been caught. Nobody is fining them. Nobody is suspending them. But they have such an incredible advantage over everybody else. And this includes the Yankees. This includes the Braves. This includes the Mets, because they're also smart. It really is unfair to the rest of baseball. You've got the Dodgers, and then you've got 29 underdogs.
To your point, Randy, right on that screen right there is almost $1.4 billion in pitching contracts. One of those guys pitched the whole season.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's not because they were hurt. It's because they're holding them back for playoff time. And let me say something else here. I find Dave Roberts to be incredibly likable. I like Dave Roberts a lot. I find Freddie Freeman to be a really likable guy. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts are legitimately great people.
Yes.
Nobody really knows Shohei, except maybe his translator. But Shohei at least appears to be fun and competitive and an enjoyable guy. Max Muncy seems to be a guy that you'd like. So it's a good group of people that they have put together, and it's hard to dislike them from a personal standpoint. And the front office is great. Mark Walter does a great job, and Andrew Friedman appears to be a really nice guy. It's just that they're so good at what they do, and they do it in a manner that nobody else is capable of. It's kind of easy to dislike them.
It's so easy to dislike them. I'm rooting for every team that isn't the Dodgers in the playoffs.
Totally, I am too.
I can't deal with them winning another one. It's again, I get it. It's not supposed to be fair. There's always going to be these differences and things, but this is getting to a level that I don't. And listen, this is if we're just going to break it down and not have fun with it anymore. This level is one of the reasons why I think we're going to see the lockout, because as you've heard Mike Claiborne talk about it, this isn't going to be a strictly players versus owners lockout. This is a rich owners versus poor owners lockout coming.
It is.
And because it's not just us that are looking at these numbers and saying this, we can't do this anymore. There's a lot of owners who are saying and looking at these Dodgers numbers and saying we can't do this anymore.
And this is a good one from Enrico Palazzo. Bad thing is, if you believe in stuff plus, their minor leagues are both number one in hitting and pitching, and they're smart too. They're, in addition to being rich, they are smart. And I think there's an interesting one from High Definition, and this is we love you, High. The Dodgers are the Cowboys of baseball. No, the Dodgers win.
Big difference.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are the 90s. The Dodgers are the 90s Cowboys. You could say that. I think that would be a little bit more apt.
Yeah.
I mean, the Deion Sanders deals and all that kind of stuff.
And the pre-salary cap Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, there's some hope apparently. You mama, I still think the Mariners can take them down.
The Mariners are also very smart. The fact that they can be where they are now and not have pitched Brian Wu in the postseason yet is pretty remarkable. The fact that they got 6 innings out of Bryce Miller, pretty remarkable. They've got a really good bullpen. Their lineup, especially if they get Arozarena going, is really good. When Julio is playing the way he's playing, that Cal Raleigh is good. J.P. Crawford is a really nice player, getting amazing work out of Jorge Polanco, or George, if you want to call him that. They have a really good team. And yes, the Dodgers, under normal circumstances, regular season circumstances, would be vulnerable to them. But as much as I love Seattle's rotation, how does it possibly match up with the Dodgers rotation? I think the only way that Seattle wins a series is by knocking these pitchers out before the 6th inning. And you've got to get to the Dodger bullpen. I
was going to go with the only way that happens is if Cal Raleigh turns into 2013 David Ortiz, and Roberts is also not smart enough to walk him.
Well, that's kind of happened a little bit.
That's the only way I see this really happening.
Yeah. The Dodger bullpen has been their weakness, their Achilles heel all season long. But now they've got Sasaki down there as their closer. Tanner Scott is out. He of the 4-year, $72 million contract. Vesia is good. Trinan got in some trouble the other night. And they have some injured guys. Yates is out, big contract. Kopech is out, big contract. But Sasaki is their closer now. And if you get to the 9th against the Dodgers, you're in pretty big trouble.
Enrico Palazzo says that hurts, Rock. Yeah. Here's what I realized. We all know how incredible that series was and how you should have walked David Ortiz, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what David Ortiz's OPS was in that World Series?
It was over 1,000, right?
No, Randy. It was just under 2,000.
Yeah.
His OPS is 1.948 in that World Series. I can't imagine the amount of times I've actually seen a 2,000 OPS on Baseball Reference along any game stretch. I know it's only 6 games, but dear sweet Lord Almighty, a 2,000 OPS.
Unbelievable.
I didn't think it was that incredible what he did. Good Lord.
2 things. Number one, do you remember Waino's very first game on Fox? And before they get started, Waino's doing a talk back from the booth, and Ortiz says, "Waino, I got one question for you."
He says,
"Why did you keep pitching to me?" in 2013.
2,000 OPS.
Okay, but here let's take a look here,
Can't handle
because
that.
ultimately, Matthew, even though
It's 1,000 points higher
Yeah.
than his regular season OPS,
Yeah.
by the way.
And that's incredible. That's incredible. But the old adage should be and this was a Whitey thing, this was a Tony thing. Pick out a guy on the other team that is not going to beat you, and then don't let him beat you, right? And obviously Ortiz did. But if we go, let's just look at what Poppy did. First game, 2 for 3 with 3 runs batted in. And that's the one I think Woody Williams started. It was not a pleasant experience for any Cardinal fan. So 2 for 3 with a couple of RBIs, a couple of runs scored in that game for Poppy. So we go to the next game, game 2. And what I'm going to make a point here, but it'll have to flesh itself out. Game 2, he goes 2 for 3 with a couple of RBIs. Game 3 of the World Series, and I think that was the cruncher. The Cardinals actually won that game 5-4, but Ortiz goes 1 for 2 with a couple of walks. So game 3, they walk him a couple of times. Then game 4, Red Sox win, and Poppy, that's the one. The cruncher was game 4. 3 for 3, scored a run, kept rallies going, and all of a sudden he's hitting like 900 in the series. But then after that, and granted, it was only a 6-game series, but the Cardinals did not allow him to do much in games 5 and 6.
No other Red Sox had above a 600 OPS in that World Series.
Yeah, that's incredible. He did. So he went 3 for 4 with an RBI in game 5, and then in games. So I was wrong there. Then in game 6, I think the Cardinals might have gotten the hint, but it was kind of late by then. But how they didn't? Yeah, he walked 4 times in game 6.
They finally figured it out.
Yeah. But it was way too late.
Yeah, too little, and way too late on that factor.
Do we want to hit on yesterday? I got an Ozzy story about the Ozzy home run game.
Yeah, let's talk about some good Cardinals memories.
Claibs talked to Ozzy yesterday on the 40-year anniversary of Ozzy's Go Crazy Folks Go Crazy home run. And Ozzy was introduced to a strength coach by the name of Mike Shildt by one Mike Claiborne. And so Ozzy was talking about how he'd gone through this season, and Mackey did a lot to help Ozzy's strength, not only with what he was to make him a better hitter, but Ozzy also was playing with a torn rotator cuff. And so he was trying to strengthen himself for that. So Mike asked Ozzy about that specific at bat. And remember, this is on the heels of Ozzy strengthening himself and trying to be a better hitter.
Back the defense up, and I learned to pull the ball and hit the ball down the lines at spacious Busch Stadium. And so in this particular instance, the Dodgers had always pitched me hard inside, soft away, hard in. And I think I was behind in the count, actually, and he was going to blow me away with a fastball. Well, I was, I supplied the technique, he supplied the power, and history was made. And history was made because the great Jack Buck was at the mic as well. And I had a chance earlier today to listen to the whole at bat. And of course, Mike and Jack had talked about the fact that I hadn't hit a home run, and that wasn't the threat at that particular time. And I certainly was not trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. I was certainly trying to get myself down hit the ball down in the corner and get myself in scoring position. And magic happened.
It was an incredible day. A couple of things from that day. Actually, it's weird. 40 years later, I was driving downtown to get tickets, and I got a flat tire in my little Honda CRX. So I had to pull over on Highway 40 and change a tire in the morning. So go back, pick up. It's 4 people coming to the game. The Union Station had been renovated for the first time and opened in that summer of '85. There was a place called Johnny's Subs. And so we walked from the ballpark over to Johnny's Subs and got these giant subs. I think it was a 3:00 start. And so we go in, and the subs are so big that we can't finish them. So we put them under our chairs. And it's 2-2, 9th inning. And we're thinking nobody's going to score here. I mean, needing fewer for them, and the Cardinals still had bullets left in the bullpen. So we're thinking, okay, we're going to go extra innings. There's no way Ozzy's going to hit a home run. So let's get out our sandwiches and start eating here because we're getting hungry. It's kind of getting to the dinner hour. And so Ozzy hits the home run off of Niedenfuer. And at first, I'm in the upper deck in right field. I didn't know, because Mariano Duncan tried to make a play on the ball. I didn't know that it had hit off a pillar above the yellow line to be a home run. And then all of a sudden we see the umpire going like this, and all of us jump up. Now, remember, we've got these giant Johnny subs on our lap. We jump up, and there's lettuce and tomato and turkey and bologna and bread all over all of the people in front of us when Ozzie hit the home run. I don't think anybody cared a lick because of that. And then everybody stayed in the ballpark for a really long time, because there was a chance that was the last time we were going to see the Cardinals that year. They'd taken the lead in the series 3-2. But we get into the car, and we're sitting in traffic because everybody had waited. And we're sitting on 8th Street, gridlock. And I was on KMOX at the time. I wasn't obviously working that day. But we hear the entire at-bat. And like Ozzie said, it was unbelievable. And it changed the way I felt about the home run, because I think that is, and Jack had unbelievable baseball calls. I can't believe what I just saw with Kirk Gibson. There were so many great calls in 1985. Clark sitting on 10 home runs, and you could hear Jack Clark's bat because it was so loud. Make it 11. He had a lot of unbelievable calls in 1985, but that's the best baseball call I've ever heard.
I'm so glad you got that, because I was going to ask, because you were there in person, your reaction when you first heard the call. It was literally just in traffic afterwards.
And then
they knew what they were doing.
Well, and so here's what I did, because I was so enamored with the call. Go home, 8:00 at night or something like that, and I thought, I got to hear this again. And I didn't really. The world was different. We didn't have the internet, so I drove back downtown, listened to the call a few times because I had access to it at KMOX, and then went home. Next day is an off day. Game 6, Jack Clark hits the home run, and the anniversary of that is tomorrow. The adios goodbye, and maybe that's a winner. Cardinals might win the pennant on that home run. And the Cardinals win it. Again, it's reasonably late. It was late afternoon start, 3:00. Game probably ended about 6:30. And my executive producer, Rob Silverstein, who hired me, started me in this business, so blame him. But so Rob calls me after the game is over, okay, at 6:30 on whatever night it was. I think it might have been Wednesday. And says, hey, I needed, Rob was still is a quintessential New Yorker. He's the executive producer of one of the not Entertainment Tonight, but one of the other entertainment shows, Access Hollywood. He's the executive producer of Access Hollywood. Anyway, he calls me up in that New York accent and says, hey, I need a 2-hour special by tomorrow at 6:00. It's like 6:30 the night before. I said, okay, love it. And I was so jazzed because the Cardinals had won the pennant and everything. So I finished producing Open Line at 8:00. And I think I had like 150 highlights in the 2-hour show from the whole season. It was a 2-hour special from the whole season. And in those days, we didn't have computers to edit stuff. We had razor blades and tape. So you'd take a piece of tape out and edit it together. Now, here's the thing. I write the whole thing, probably get that done by 6 a.m. And then I have to get Jack Buck to record tracks. Well, Jack flew back with the team. They didn't get in till like 3:30 in the morning. So Jack shows up at about noon, records the tracks. I am cutting and literally cutting, taping, and finish hour 1 probably at about 2:30 in the afternoon after he had recorded those tracks at 10 a.m. or so. Finished the first one 2:30 in the afternoon. That airs 6:15, fine, because we had the news. The second hour of that show that I had started, and I remember, I haven't gone home, I haven't slept. I've been there at the Mox from probably noon the day before, and now it's 6 p.m. the next day. At 7 p.m., I probably finished putting that second hour together at 5 until 7. Put it on a reel and air it, and I hadn't even had a chance to listen to it. And it turned out perfect, fortunately. It very well could have been a disaster. Sometimes Jack would make a mistake with tracks. Yes, he did make mistakes. And then he'd curse, so I had to cut that stuff out. But it wound up being perfect. It was unbelievable. And it's really one of the most memorable and fun nights of my life, pulling an all-nighter and putting together a 2-hour Cardinal special of the 1985 season.
That's unbelievable. Man,
I was kind of tired when it was done.
I would imagine. Unbelievable, man.
Great. That was so much fun. And that's that whole, as you know, Matthew, and I think anybody who's followed me for a long time, that was my favorite season. I was so energized by that whole year. It was just cool because, as Ozzie said on the interview, and we want you to watch the Claves interview with Ozzie, but they were picked to finish in last place. They had lost Suter. They had acquired Tudor and Clark. Nobody knew how good John Tudor was. Jack Clark had a down year with San Francisco the year before, and they had traded George Hendrick, and kind of Hernandez wasn't here anymore. The core of the World Series champions from '82 was kind of gone, and they didn't get off to a good start. I think they were 20-20 after 40 games, but Vince shows up in like the 10th game of the season and steals 2 bases in his first game. And not only, and this is the great thing about sports, not only did Vince Coleman energize that team, the individuals can do this. Kurt Warner did this. Vince Coleman energized the whole town because everybody was so into it. That team was so much fun, and nobody could wait until Vince would step to the plate to start the game, because inevitably, if he got on, he was going to steal second and many times steal third. Athletes have that ability to do that, and that's one of the things that Vince Coleman did. He energized that team, and 101 wins. And if they have a healthy Clark and if they have a healthy Coleman, they win the World Series. But, it is what it is. We all know that they were a better team than the Royals. And as it turned out, Dick Hauser, the Royals manager, died the next year. He had a brain tumor. And Dan Quisenberry died a few years later after he had been with the Cardinals. Those guys wouldn't have had the opportunity to get this was a Jack Buck thing, by the way. That's not a Randy Karraker thing. He said, things worked out the way they should have because Dick Hauser got his world championship and he was a really good guy, and Quiz got his championship and he was a really good guy. So I'll buy into it and try to make myself feel better that way.
Enrico Palazzo, as far as seasons go, 2004 is the only thing that comes close to 1985 in my lifetime. I would have to guess that 98 is pretty high up there.
98 was awesome for me with following the McGuire thing from day one. But it just wasn't a great team. The thing about the 04 team, and that was a better team than 1985. But I expected the 04 team to be really good. They went out and they got some pitching during the offseason, and they had made the trade to get King and Marquis, and Waino didn't pitch that year, but and they go get a guy like Suppan. So they had added to their team, and I thought that they were going to be good. And that's the best Cardinal team I've ever seen. 04 was the best Cardinal team ever. Heck, half of your starting 8 is in the Hall of Fame. And another, well, not yet, but Yachty, Albert, Roland, Walker, and then Jim Evans should be in the Hall of Fame. So you leave out Eckstein, you leave out Womack, Tony Womack, and then Reggie Sanders. To me, that is the best Cardinal team I've ever seen. But the other team, the 85 team, was just more exciting. They stole 314 bases, and you had an MVP. You had your MV3 in 04. You had Willie really coming into his own as the MVP. And just so many, the double steal. There were so many individual plays in that season. It was just unbelievable. And Ozzie obviously is the play of that season, and it was 40 years ago yesterday.
Randy, I think we did a great job talking a lot of great Cardinals talk today, but unfortunately, I know for a fact that in the last 48 hours, our baseball conversation is at best second place because our good friend Ozzie Smith was in town, and that means that in the last 48 hours, there was a dinner that was held. And at that dinner was Willie McGee, Vince Coleman, and Ozzie Smith at the same table together. And I just got to say, I wish I was a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys are so great. And we are so lucky that Ozzie has stayed in town, and he had his golf tournament here on Monday, and they celebrated the 40-year anniversary of that team. But bringing those guys back, because you don't have Whitey anymore, and Ozzie was the leader. He was the ringleader of that team. And he brings those guys back together and brings them back to St. Louis. And it's really special. And so many people have had so many opportunities to spend time with Ozzie, and he's an absolute prince. And when I spend some time in the very near future with Chaim Bloom, and I don't know if the Cardinals want to bring Vince into spring training to help with their base stealing, but I'll tell you what, I don't know that they're going to get any better to have a guy to talk to young players about stealing bases than Vince Coleman.
Absolutely.
So anyway, this was fun. What do we got? Tommy Herr was challenging McGee for the batting title most of the 85 season until he tailed off. Yeah, Vince was Willie he hit 353. Tommy was unbelievable. I think he's still the only guy to hit less than 10 home runs. He had 8 home runs and drive in more than 100. He had 110 RBIs. Pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yep.
What a fun team. All right. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Randy Karraker Show with Matthew Rocchio here on STL Sports Central. Don't forget, you can like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll know when we're coming on, and follow us on all the on all the socials at STL Sports Central, and check out the website too. You can read all of Bernie's great work, and you can always communicate with us. And thanks to our friends at DraftKings, where the crown is yours. And we will see you next time here on the Randy Karraker Show. So long, everybody.